And Moshe is now teaching the heads of tribes. So 2 questions. Is it connected to something that we're learning about it now, number 1? And number 2, where is the commandment from God to Moshe? Usually what happens, the Torah states, Vayidaber Hashem el Moshe lemor. And then, what is lemor? That Moshe should say and teach what he just heard from the others. So, let's go on. I want to give you the answer. Turn back to the end of Parashat Pinchas. Does anyone remember the subject? What were we learning about in the last 40 or 50 verses in Parashat Pinchas? The section dealing with what?
Festivals.
More specific?
Sacrifices.
What type of sacrifices?
Sukkot sacrifices.
One word applicable to all the sections except for the first section that's dealing with the tamid, the daily offering.
Daily offering, okay.
No, I'm saying after the first section, what else is this dealing with? It's dealing with the Musaf offering. My dear friends, the last section, the last 39 verses, starting from verse 11, after the Torah dealing with the Tamid offering, it dealt with the Musaf of Rosh Chodesh, and then the Musaf of Shabbat, and then the Musaf of Pesach, and then the Musaf of Shavuot, and then the Musaf of Rosh Hashanah, and then the Musaf of Yom Kippur, and then Sukkot, and then Shmini Atzeret. I started with Rosh Chodesh. It went in that order. Rosh Chodesh. It went with Shabbat, Rosh Chodesh, holidays. As a side note, since we didn't have time to study it, and we don't have time to study it now, you would have thought that Korbanot would be more fitting for the book of Vayikra, the book of Leviticus. All the Korbanot are there. But as I learned, I heard this from Rav Kashtiel, it's in the Midrash as well, Vayikra opened up with Adam, the individual. If you the individual, want to sacrifice and bring a burnt offering, a volunteer, that's how the book of Vayikra started with. Here, we're in the 40th year. The 40th year means the nation in front of us is going to be walking into the land of Israel. Therefore, the Torah now, just a few months before it goes into Israel, that Moshe will be teaching them, after what God teaches Moshe, all the laws of the public offerings. The Tamid offering, the Korban Musaf offering. I know you came early to bring your offering. You were number 4 online. And you came all the way from Mashkin. You probably got up at 3 in the morning. And he arrived at 4, the tzaddik. He wanted to really come early to give his personal offering. And this man says, I have time, I have a motorcycle, I have no traffic. He arrived at 5:30 for the doors of the Beit HaMikdash to open. Behind him, another hundreds and hundreds of individuals. They all want to bring their korban of their... No. They want to bring their individual korban out. And then you hear that they're sacrificing the public daily offering called the Tamid offering. And this guy that didn't learn all the laws, hey, it's not fair. I was here early in the morning. I want to do my own korban. What are you going to tell this individual? You're only an individual. You're only a private person. What comes before the private individual korbanot every morning? The Tamid offering, because it is a
daily offering,
a public offering, tzibor. And we, the nation of Israel, we are a tzibor. We're a public. We're a nation. And therefore, this guy that just walked in right now, he'll wait online to bring his individual korbanot. All of you also. You can't say it's not fair, because what comes first is not the individual, but rather the public, the tzibor, the nation. That was the last 40 psukim or more or less. But if you look at verse 39 of the last chapter, one verse before the last verse of the portion, the Torah says, I'm reading. It'd be your interest not to look at me, I'm not that good looking. Look inside the Chumash. These, what you're going to do, these are the offerings in the appointed times. Again, the Korban Musaf of all the Moadim, the special times. In addition to what? Levad, in addition to what? Minidrechem, to your vow offerings. V'nidvotechem, and your volunteer offerings. Le'olotechem, whether it's an olah, le'minchotechem, your meal offerings, u'leniskechem, your wine libation, u'leshalmechem, and your shlamim offerings. My dear friends, what we just learned at the end of the Musaf section is all the Tamid Musaf offerings in addition to the personal volunteer offerings called Neder or Nidava. Here is God speaking to Moshe about the subject called Neder Nidava. Now, this section, which we just began and goes on until the end of verse 17, again, my expectations from all of you from right now are before the morning Shur Parashat Shavua, you the night before, early morning, you read the next section to prepare what we're learning. So it won't be new to us. So we have some sort of grip of the basic structure, understanding, hopefully many questions, and that's how we're going to have a much more blessed and fruitful learning. Okay, we all agree, yes or no?
Okay.
I heard from 1 yes, 2 yes, 3 yes. No? Yes or no?
Abstain.
What are you a yeshiva student for? I'm not abstaining. If you're abstaining,
To study. Of course to study.
so you're willing to do it. Read the section in front. Okay, I heard you. Now, I don't want to spend too much time because we don't have too much time. This coming Shabbat, we have a double parsha that's more than 200 psukim, Matot and Masei. It's a lot of work for you to add an hour every day so that you don't rely on Menachem Listman. Now, 1 second, I didn't say anything. So this section, Moshe is teaching to the heads of tribes. And it's based upon what Hashem taught Moshe, that there are going to be nidarim, vow offerings, nidavot, voluntary vow offerings. And therefore, since we're talking about complicated matters, do you know that we have a Masechet, a tractate called Nidarim? Because the language is very specific. What is a neder? What is not a neder, a vow? Number 2, we have another tractate called Shavuot, oaths. They too are very complicated. I want Shavuot, vow offerings. I want to share with you verse 3, where both neder and Shavuot are mentioned. And I want to say the following. Ish, put your finger on the place. Ish, any man, ki yidor neder ladunai, when he makes a vow to God, meaning he wants to give good spirit to God, o ishava shavua, or he takes surely a language of a
vow.
Shavua. Thank you. Neder is oath, Shavua is
Vow.
Neder is vow, Shavua is oath. What's the difference? In one moment. Now, what will a person be taking a Neder Shavua? Something that's permitted. This guy likes cornflakes. He makes a Neder about cornflakes. And that he's prohibiting it on himself. Le'esor isar al nafsho. To make a prohibition on himself. That he may not get benefit from it. Lo yachel dvaro. You see those 3 words? That is a negative commandment. Yachel dvaro. Yachel from the word? No, it's with a chet. What is the root of the word?
Break.
That could be, but there's another root to break. There's another root.
Lishbor.
No, you said the same thing. What do you see in the word yachel?
Yachol.
No, it's with a chet, my sir. Yachol is with a chaf.
Chol,
What is chol?
ordinary.
Common, ordinary, mundane, not holy. Hamavdil ben kodesh, lechol. You never heard that statement before? Every Saturday night. Hamavdil ben kodesh, lechol. Hope you're listening to the Havdalah. We're blessing God that separates between holy and
General.
Mundane.
mundane, not holy. Lo yachel dvaro. Listen to me. You're taking a neder, you're creating holiness. You're taking a shvuah, an oath. You're creating holiness. How are you creating holiness? Open up your mouth, please. There, I thought so. You know what he has inside his mouth?
Teeth.
A tongue and teeth. Do you know why he has a tongue and teeth? Not just to eat, but in order to speak and pronounce holiness. Man, unlike an animal, has a nefesh, has a tzelem elokim, a divine image. That divine image is expressed in speech. We, as the Targum explains, on the living being of soul that God tells us in Genesis, we are a speaking spirit. That means what we can do, God allows us, is to create holiness. I know that this guy's tzitzit, if he's wearing it, has holiness in the mitzvah that he's doing. And the tefillin that you put on this morning has holiness. The Jewish people were gifted by God to create holiness. Why? Because they are holy. Why? Because God is holy. Because God decided for them to be holy. So, you see this guy sitting next to me? You see him?
Yeah.
He says 613 mitzvot are not enough. I want more. He says to me, every time I pass the grocery store, I go in and I come out and the 20 shekels out of my pocket. And I can't control myself. I have a yetzer hara. He makes a neder. And he says, this store, this object, is forbidden to me like something which is holy. Holy objects, are we allowed to get benefit from? No. A neder is volunteering about an object prohibiting your benefit. That's a neder. The prohibition's on the object. Chefetz in the word Hebrew. Whereas a shvuah is different, is the obligation is on you. The difference between a neder and a shvuah, when a person says, makes a neder or a certain language, the neder is on the object. The object to you is holy, meaning you cannot partake in benefit. As opposed to a shvuah, an oath in God's name, you are the topic or subject of the prohibition, not the object. So that'll be a major difference between a neder and a shvuah. They're both an obligation, a volunteer obligation of something that's permitted, that you are now making it prohibited. Is that clear to all of us? A neder or a shvuah, we're not taking something that's prohibited and permitting. I'm now allowed to eat a pig sandwich. You can't make a neder or shvuah to permit you, because God at Sinai said we can't do these averot. But rather, God said you're allowed to have ice cream. But you said, I'm making a neder on all ice creams that I don't want to eat it for 30 days. You're doing it. You're creating
self-prohibition.
a prohibition. You're creating what else? Holiness on the object of the neder. Like you're not allowed to take benefit from things that are holy. You're creating holiness by the power of speech that God gave us. That is a neder. I repeat, a neder is volunteering, making a prohibition for the sake of God, that an object is now prohibited. Usually it's by the language harei alai. It's upon me. This ice cream is upon me. It's if it's holy, like a korban. As opposed to shvuah. What does the word shvuah mean? Oath. In God's name, you may use the object of a shvuah is yourself. Meaning, shvuah, I'm taking an oath in God's name that I'm not going to eat ice cream. It's not the ice cream that's prohibited. It's you that you prohibited yourself. That is the fine difference between neder and shvuah.
It's so fine. I don't
One second.
understand it.
Okay. So
So what is it?
let me explain. Give you a classic example, then I hear your question, sir. I'm repeating. Neder is a prohibition or obligating yourself for the object. The holiness is on the object, not on you. A shvuah is that you are the object of the prohibition. I'll give you a classic example. Let's say you positively say, this lamb outside, tied to this door, I want to bring it as a volunteer offering. What is the word volunteer offering called in Hebrew? Neder. Neder. You heard the word neder? Look it inside. See it inside if you identify it in Hebrew. Who found the word neder we just learned?
The last pasuk.
In verse 3, Ish, ki yidur neder. When a person shall vow a neder. So, if you vowed to make this animal a what? A volunteer offering called korban neder, and it got lost, do you have to bring another one instead? No, you made this animal special, holy, to bring it as an offering. If it got lost, it was a matter on the object itself, as opposed to shavua. I took an oath in God's name to bring a korban, and it happens to be this lamb is outside my house. That's what I intend to do. I obligated myself and not
The goat.
the animal. If that animal got lost, I intended to bring it. I took a shavua in God's name that I will bring this as an offering. I obligated myself with a shavua, the certain language of a shavua, an oath, and the animal got lost. Am I supposed to bring a different one?
Yeah.
Why? You're absolutely right. Why?
Because obligation was on you.
That's right. That'll be the major difference between a neder and a shvua. So I related to your question. Before you ask your question, Achihud was next.
How are these things not a sword? I thought that we were not allowed to add.
Very excellent question. Excellent question that Achihud is asking. There's a mitzvah we're going to get to in 2 weeks from now in the book of Devarim. Lo tosif, do not add. Do not add, namely, onto the Tariag mitzvot. Okay? So that is making or thinking you're making an addendum which is going to be permanent. A neder or a shvuah is one of the 613 mitzvot that if you want to, you can take a neder. If you want to, you can take a shvuah, and it's not adding on to the mitzvot. And it's usually for a certain period of time as well. So therefore, it's not an addition. It's part of the framework of the 613. God gave you the ability to create holiness. You want to use a neder, for instance, a nazir. A nazir is a subset of the laws of a neder. If you receive upon yourself to be a nazir, it is a type of neder. So that answers your question.
Why?
So
How
rebound.
If
Follow up.
If there is no Beit HaMikdash and we're not able to perform all 613,
That's right.
then it would seem that Hashem would not allow this as valid because we're not even able to perform what we have now.
So we're not asking if you can perform it now or not. There are ways you can perform it. There's not dependent upon the Beit HaMikdash. We're not going to get into the halachot. I very much recommend you start learning Mishnayot Nidarim, and you'll see all the vast laws of the oral Torah. We don't have the possibility of doing that here. Malti.
Why is Nazir count as a neder?
God said so in the section of Nazir in the book of Vayikra, chapter Bamidbar, chapter 6.
No, so in the
It says, right? It says it's a neder Nazir. A Nazir use the language of a neder. There's a language of a neder. Yes. I'm only one more question. We're going on to the next to see how other things. There are a lot to study. We don't have the time for it. Go ahead.
So we the last Parashat on the last chapter we learn about the festivals of Rosh Hashanah and other things.
The Korban Musaf of all the holidays.
Right.
Those
So
are not
however-
nidarim. What are they? They're Torah obligations to bring a Musaf offering.
Right. So these are Torah obligation festivals. So with the korbanot and everything.
That's
so what I'm
right.
trying to understand is
Yes.
we only talk about Solos Regalim.
No,
So-
there in the Torah it's talked about Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur as well in Shemini Atzeret.
Nachon. What I'm trying to say is why Solos Regalim? We are supposed to say all the festivals together. Why segregate only the Solos Regalim?
I don't
Yeah,
understand.
I
I
hope
don't
you
understand.
understand
No, I don't
Okay,
understand your
so what I'm
question.
saying is, so we have Torah festivals which are given over here.
All
We have Rosh Hashanah.
all the appointed times are listed in this last chapter
Nachon.
about bringing an additional offering in Hebrew called the Korban Musaf,
Nachon.
starting from Shabbat,
Shabbat,
Rosh
Rosh
Chodesh,
Chodesh,
Pesach,
mhm.
Shavuot,
Shavuot,
Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, Shmini Atzeret. That's what we learned in.
Nachon. So why is Solos Regalim?
So that's because you're asking an unrelated question here.
No,
I'm
I just
sorry.
because it's my
If I'd be
something
mean,
that-
I'd say I'm not going to answer your question.
Okay.
It's an unrelated question. Because God decided that 3 times we congregate and come up to Yerushalayim. That's what it's
That's the only point, right?
That is the major point.
Okay, that's what I want to understand.
Okay. We're going on to the next point, my dear friends. Lo yachel dvaro, a negative commandment. We said the word yachel comes from the word chol, which means
ragil.
what? Mundane, not holy. Chol, hamavdil ben kodesh lechol. Lo yachel dvaro. You made a neder or a shvuah. You created holiness. Don't profane the words that you said. Profane meaning make it chol. How? By violating the neder, not keeping the neder or not keeping the shvuah. You're turning the kodesh into chol. By not eating the ice cream and keeping your neder or the shvuah, you've created kedusha. This ice cream is kadosh. You can't take benefit. If you eat it, you've as if you turned this something kadosh into something which is chol. Lo yachel dvaro is a negative commandment, and the positive commandment, kechol hayotze mipiv, kechol hayotze mipiv, whatever comes out of your mouth, ya'aseh, he shall do. A positive commandment. You made a neder, keep the neder.
This doesn't make sense.
What say out of humility? I know you're a humble Jew. You're learning on your humility. Say, I don't understand this.
I don't understand.
You know the difference between doesn't make sense and I don't understand this. He's a very humble Jew.
The inconsistency I don't understand is that if the Nazir is a neder, then I can't drink this bottle of wine, but I can drink that bottle of wine because I made a neder on this bottle of wine.
Good question. But the Torah says, what is a Nazir? It's all bottles of wine.
But
you're right. That means not only a neder nazir is not a particular bottle of wine. A neder nazir is what's written in the Torah, the prohibitions of nazirut, which are not cutting hair, not being defiled to the dead, and not drinking wine or eating any grape products whatsoever. So it's applicable to that.
How is this not?
And nazir, it's a pre-established neder.
What's that?
Pre-established.
There are criteria to the neder of Nazir. That's what you mean. Very good. Yes, sir?
This sounds like a disaster waiting to happen, like you're setting a stumbling block for yourself.
So I told you, please go ahead and learn all the Mishnayot in Masechet Nedarim, and then you're going to see how Chazal told us, hey, don't mess with Nedarim and Shavuot. You're playing with fire. Let's go on. My dear friends, the Torah here talks about, remember, everyone for tomorrow is going to read the next section and be abreast of matters every day from until the end of the semester, and we'll see what's going to happen for the next semester. A woman, a girl, until she's 12 years old, she's under the halachic jurisdiction of her father. If she makes a neder about things she cannot benefit from, her father has the ability to hear and annul the neder. A wife married to a husband, if she says, I don't want to eat ice cream, I don't want to make cake for you, and a neder, her husband has a right to annul the nedarim, the things that are permitted that she's now prohibiting upon herself. A lot of the things are written here and in Rashi, and the Torah establishes the matters until verse 17. I want you to read it and go over it another time. I'm ready to go to the next section, but you have a question?
This neder, it's a particular. It's like it's a secret.
A personal vow.
Not a secret.
The people don't need to know, basically.
You're right. You don't have to get on the radio or the internet or Facebook and say, I made a neder regarding this. That's correct, sir. What, sir?
Here, say, if the husband and the father here, or he say like...
That's right. And if he didn't hear, and doesn't know about it, achalota, then that neder will exist for the wife or for the younger daughter.
Okay. So if he don't hear...
That's right.
He cannot...
he cannot annul it. That's correct, sir.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, Arav, so when you say neder, you're making the object holy. And so what happened, when it comes to Sivwa, you're trying to make whole...
You're making yourself holy that you can't eat ice cream.
The rest is becoming whole? Is that what you mean?
The ice cream is not holy. You made yourself under oath of God that you cannot benefit from it, and therefore it's respecting the person and not the object.
So when you say chol,
and therefore, yes, chol meaning if you do not keep your oath or your neder, you're profaning the words that you took out of your mouth.
Oh, okay.
making them not holy.
He's saying because you're changing the position of either yourself or the object. If let's say I'm changing myself,
whether you ate the ice cream as a neder or you ate the ice cream after a shavua, you profaned your words. You didn't keep your holy words, and that's a violation of one of the 613 mitzvot.
Is there specific language I have to use? Because,
yes, all learn Masechet Neder Mishvot. Both of you maybe do a chavruta, 2 mishnot together, and then I'd be happy to give you a test every week. Beli neder, I'll give you a written test every week. Okay. We'll see. Right now we're going forward. Chapter Lamed Aleph. Everyone read, b'vakasha, the first 6 or 7 verses of 31. Thank you. Everyone read it. The next chapter, absolutely. Chapter 31. I don't know why going so far. There should be right there. That's it. Okay, the subject is, my dear friends?
Revenge.
Revenge. A war of revenge. What else? Against?
Midianites.
Why against Midian?
Because they did the king.
One of their king's daughters.
Daughters.
What did she do?
Cosby.
Cosby, the daughter of the king called
Lured.
Sur, that's right. Cosby Batsur. She came and she prostituted with
Simeonite.
a leader of the tribe of
Simeon.
Come on, say it nicer.
Shimon.
Shimon.
I was reading the English. So
Shimon. One more time.
Shimon.
There you go. I'm going to be stubborn. Shimon. And his name was Zimri ben Salu. And they had relations almost overtly in front of everyone, Sanhedrin. And he poked fun at Moshe, who says, you're telling me no? And you took this daughter of the Midianite girl. Who allowed you to take a daughter of Midian? Right? Remember Moshe married? A Midianite. Of course, at Sinai, she converted like everyone converted, right? And only Sinai were we obligated by all these laws. In any event, he was a big chutzpah guy. And as a result, there was a lot of prostitution going on. And how many died in the plague?
24,000.
And all because of Midianite girls, not only her. We said, even though the girls of Moab did the prostituting, one Midrash said it was really Midianite girls that got dressed up in the clothing of Moab. God commands in the chapter, war them, hate them. Now we see a closer fulfillment of the mitzvah. God calls it, in Pasuk 2, the revenge of Bnei Yisrael. Moshe Rabbeinu, when he orders the soldiers to go out, he calls it the revenge of... Don't look at me, look inside.
The children of Israel.
That's right. No. Moshe calls it the revenge of...
Midian.
The people.
Again, God calls it the revenge of...
The children of Israel.
Bnei Israel. Moshe calls it, when he enlists soldiers, what does he call it?
Lord. Vengeance of Hashem.
The vengeance of Hashem. Is that a difference? Really, they're two names, but God and Israel are one entity. What does that mean? It's one essence. We're godly people, even though we're human beings and we have physical beings. But we're godly. We belong to God. And God is connected to us more than any other nation. We're His B'ni Bechori Yisrael. God says to Moshe before Egypt, you're my son, my firstborn Israel. So, we're talking about the vengeance. I thought vengeance is a bad thing. Didn't you say the other day? Yeah, you with the kippah. You with the kippah.
Yeah.
Vayikra chapter 19. Don't take vengeance. You know that prohibition? So what's the answer to this?
Take vengeance on another Jew.
What?
It's not me, it's God take a revenge. He can.
Don't take vengeance on a Jew.
Interesting answer. Another answer?
Don't take personal revenge.
Very nice. That's what many of the commentaries say. A person against another person, don't take revenge. But here, it's not against a person, it's against
Nations.
a nation, an entity. And they have to know. Remember that apparently that was the counsel of Bil'am, as we're about to see it literally, that he told, you want to know how to defeat the Jewish people? Send the woman out to them, and there'll be, God hates lewdness. And now we see that Moshe Rabbeinu is the head of the army. And how many soldiers does he enlist?
12,000.
Elef lamateh. You see the words in the end of verse, the beginning of verse 4? Elef lamateh. The word mateh means?
Tribe.
A tribe. right? Mate is tribe. Elef lamate. How many tribes?
1,000.
And what's your question? I was told that the Midianites are a humongous nation. Gigantic. We'll see when you review the amount of booty, how many animals, how many persons as POWs, how many slaves were taken, how many women were taken. We're talking about a gigantic nation. What are you, silly? 12,000 soldiers? What's the answer?
Kadosh Baruch Hu is with them.
He's always with us, but we always have to make efforts.
Why can't it be both personal and both national?
It's not a personal matter. We're dealing with a nation that was undermined. 24,000 died. A tremendous epidemic. And Pinchas stopped it. It would have been greater had he not did the act of zealousy for the sake of God, not out of anger, but out of cool halachic understanding. Why only 12,000 soldiers? Answer?
Because it was half of what?
No.
Because he wants.
Because there's
that,
1,000 of every tribe.
No, because he wants that the war be upon him, not like my strength.
Upon God? Then let's just send out 1,000.
I like his answer. 1,000 from every tribe. There's just 12 tribes. 12
Excuse me. They're a humongous nation. Remember we learned the war of Ha'ai? We sent too few soldiers and we lost. Why not send them any? My dear friends, the answer is not very difficult. It is a war of justice, spiritual justice. The people that can go out to war have to be righteous, uplifting Jews. We're talking about the commando unit of God-fearing Jews. 1,000 tzaddikim, Rashi in the name of Chazal said, those are going to be the ones that can overcome their Yetzer Hara when they meet up with women and not take them. So therefore, in order to emphasize that it's going to be a war of justice and God's going to be with us, we're only going to take 1,000 tzaddikim, the top, the greatest God-fearing soldiers that we have. Only them. Not mediocre God-fearing people, not low-level, heavyweights. Heavyweights that are what? Are capable of fighting a war out of righteousness. And now we can get to the number, what both of you said. This will represent maybe the 24,000. It does say 12,000 Jews in the end of verse 5. Vayimasru me'alfei Yisrael. From the Alufim of Israel in verse 5. How many people are sent over? Elef lamate, meaning who sent over are those most purest Jews, the people that can really move the weight down with more and more righteousness, and therefore we're going out to do the vengeance of God and the vengeance of the Jewish people with the most holy people. 12,000, which will represent maybe the 24,000 that died. There's a midrashic opinion, Rabbi Yishmael, I think, that 24,000 are sent. I don't know how it's represented in the Pshat, but I can't answer that question. Who's going to head the army, please? Who's going to head the army? Very good. And our question is?
Why?
What's his job, Pinchas?
Yeah.
He's the head.
Kohen Gadol.
He's like right now his father, I think, is the Kohen Gadol. Elazar, right?
Yeah.
He's probably like the assistant Kohen Gadol, I would assume, right? Mm-hmm. He just now became a Kohen. Mm-hmm. Until now, he was not a Kohen. We explained that in the last shiur. Mm-hmm. Is that what we usually would do? Take someone who's a great spiritual status and you say, you lead the war? No. So why is he leading the war?
Because we said it was for justice,
So he is eligible spiritually, you're saying beautifully, gentlemen, to lead the war because he himself took the javelin, the spear, and he killed the great leader from Shimon and this daughter of royalty. He started the mitzvah, actually. Mm-hmm. What do we tell someone that starts a mitzvah?
Leaders.
Finish the mitzvah. There's a Talmudic statement. Have you heard of this statement? The Talmudic statement says this: Hamatchil b'mitzvah, kama, omrim lo, gemor. I repeat. Hamatchil b'mitzvah, the one that
starts.
Omrim lo, we say to him,
finish.
Gemor, finish the mitzvah. Yeah. Pinchas started the war, actually. He was not intimidated by killing a leader of a Jewish tribe, Shimon, and a daughter of royalty from Midian. So therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu, maybe based on his own understanding, says, you Pinchas, you finish the mitzvah. We don't see instructions from God regarding this matter. Questions until now?
Yeah.
One at a time.
Why can't I then wage war on the Germans?
Who's you? Who are you?
I'm-
Are you the
it's-
chief of staff of the Israeli army?
it's
Are you a
not-
public figure?
It's not a personal thing. It's a national thing. They
Okay.
killed 6 million.
Excellent
brothers.
question. And the answer is you and I are no longer living in the galut that you can do clandestine
From here, I'll
espionage
happily-
activities. No, we are a nation. We are a public, and we have a leadership, and we have a government, we have a state. And therefore, it's not you, the individual, that's doing it. The state of Israel has to do it. And there are people that are elected, that are in top office. There are people that are nominated to do security jobs. Right now, one of the heads of the National Security Association, he resigned. His name is something Shavat. He's the son-in-law of a great rabbi, Rabbi Druckman, who's the head of the Bnei Akiva Ulpana Yeshiva system. I didn't even know that until I heard the interview. This guy's been in his job day and night, 7 days a week for 4 years. Usually the person that lasts in his job is 2 years. He gave up his life for 4 years, day and night. And he did a fantastic job. All of the matters of Iran in the 4 years, all the Ishmaeli agreements that are done, a lot because of this great secret work that he's been doing, and so on and so forth. Right now, Iran said, yes, something happened in a power plant, right? 2 weeks ago, there was no damage done. They came off on public television, whatever, with satellite pictures of an entire hole in this power plant of Iran was made secretly, and it goes all the way down into the earth. Iran says nothing happened. We don't know who did it. Of course, we're not allowed to say who did it, but we only know one entity in the world could do such a thing secretly, and it made tremendous damage, apparently, regarding the producing of their what did they call the centrifuge? What do you call those words? Centrifuge, that is.
There was more than one. There was
You don't know this list.
The one thing that keep
Yes.
coming back is about Yitro, because I remember Yitro converted, and he has a lot of followers from Midian. So why is he not in the picture right now?
Yitro is the father-in-law. He's joined the Jewish people, or he went back to his country. He certainly is not behind all these espionage activities to undermine the Jewish people. Bil'am is. He appears, his lineage appears in the picture later on. There are two opinions. When Moshe Rabbeinu asked Yitro, please go in front of us, be our tour guide in the desert. The Midyanim are wandering people, excellent leaders in the desert, how to manage their lives. We didn't see an answer if he did take the job and didn't take the job. So we don't know if he went back or didn't go back, as we read early in the 20, 30 chapters ago. But we do see the lineage, the children or grandchildren of Yitro living in the area of Yericho in the book of Yeshua.
Yeah, that we learned. But
Yes, so we don't see Yitro appearing at...
even if he goes back, we are now right in front of his
Okay, but that's
house.
say that. We don't know where he is. I don't know. I don't have an answer to your question further than that. What happens at the end of the war, my dear friends? Pasuk Zayin, verse 7. By the way, Pinchas is taken. Klei HaKodesh, holy vessels are taken. V'chatzotrot, trumpets of Trua are taken. What does Klei Kodesh mean? Rashi says in the name of the Midrash, we mentioned it 2 months ago, the Holy Ark is taken. Which Holy Ark, my dear friends?
The one with the broken tablets.
Very good. You remember the show we learned this? Very good, gentlemen. Well, you're very strong learners. I'm very proud of it. Wish I'd be as strong as you guys. I meant it. I really mean it. So here we can bring a proof, according to Rashi, in the name of a Midrash, that when we go to war, we take out a different ark that houses the broken tablets, haluchot hashvurim, as that signifying that God is with us going to the war. Going to the war. What's the results of the war? Verse 7. Vayitzbe'u al Midian. Look at the word vayitzbe'u. Give me the shoresh. Give me the root. 3 letters. Tzava. Very good. Warring as an army. Vayitzbe'u al Midian kasher tziva Hashem et Moshe. Vayargu kol zachar. In one pasuk, we are told that the men of Midian are killed. Why is that stated here? Do you think, Renan? The men are killed in the war.
Yeah, why aren't we killing the prostitutes?
It's coming to say the men were killed and not the women. And your question is, why weren't the women killed? Let's see the names of the kings. Pasuk Chet, verse 8. Vet malchei Midian hargu al chalaim. With all the others slain. We killed the VIPs. Et Evi, Vet Rekem, Vet Sur, Vet Chor, Vet Reva. Wow, what a victory. Chameshet malchei Midian. And who else is killed, by the way? Vet Bilam ben Bor, hargu becharev. If he would be a real prophet, would you have killed him? Yeah, you, the soldier of Israel. Yes or no? No. What does this prove?
That he's not.
Who said that he's not a prophet? Who said that idea we learned 2 weeks ago? Ramban. Nachmanides. Had he really been a prophet, the army of Israel would never have killed him. But he's a sorcerer. He's a magician. God gave him prophecy then, so the Goyim, the nation's world, shouldn't say, why didn't you give us prophecy? We'd be more righteous people. We gave it to you. And you're a bunch of terrible, acting, behaving people. You've met with Gentiles in the world?
No.
Some of them are not so nice?
Some of them.
Okay. You know what I mean. Now, my dear friends, you're correct in saying that the women were not killed. Verse 9. Vayishbu b'nei Yisrael, we took into captivity. Shevi. Learn the word in Hebrew. In verse 9. Et neshem Midian vetapam, the women and their children. Vekol behemtam, we took their animals, their tractors, right? Vekol mikneim, all their cattle and sheep. Vekol chelam, all their possessions. Bazazu. Wow, big time. Material, financial gain for the Jewish people. Okay, we have to stop right now, and we're going to the Brit. Let me explain to you, one of our students, did you know him? Yosef Nickel. Jörn Nickel, did you know him? He's a Ger Tzedek from Germany. He learned by us. Baruch Hashem, he married. It was a Corona wedding in the Gan Avradim next to the Knesset during Corona outside. Rabbi Chaim Cohen did the wedding, and Baruch Hashem, they just had their first baby boy. So we're going to go and take part of it, and we'll come back to Rabbi Weinberg after another 15.